Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LaBelle Casino. Ronnie Lance alongside Tom Fan. Hope everybody's having a great one here today. If you're an LSU fan, today is a special morning. This is one you will remember. That game last night, Tommy, LSU's big win over Wake Forest was one for the record books, one for the ages. You can't have enough superlatives. You talk about one of the greatest plays in history, or the Trey Morgan flip at home plate to get the out to save the game. You talk about one of the greatest moments in LSU history, next to Warren Morris's home run and Rich Cordani's home run, or Pat Garrity's double in the triple to give LSU the win over A&M. This is right there. This is a top 5 moment in LSU baseball history you witnessed last night, and arguably a top 3 defensive play in LSU history last night. So you had everything, and now the Tigers, who were preseason number 1, have one more chance. They're 2 wins away from being national champions for the 7th time in program history. What can you say, Tommy? Let's start yesterday. Let's back. All Skeens, Louder versus Skeens. A matchup for a generation. This is a once-in-a-decade type matchup. It lived up to the billing.
Well, yeah, it was talked about, but, Omaha, we all know the history for the last 30 years. But how rarely do you get the 2 teams with their number 1 pitcher, who will both be major leaguers, to face off against each other? We've seen a lot of great pitchers in Omaha for a lot of great teams, but they never squared up against, just the way it worked out, never squared up against the other ones. So it was a spectacular thing before it even started. And then, as Kyle Peterson said, sometimes when you have such big expectations in any sport, it doesn't turn out to be what you expected. This exceeded expectations.
It really was, Tommy. I mean, just the 2 pitchers were just absolutely.
We lost your picture, Ronnie.
Okay.
Right, there we go. Yeah, no, it exceeded expectations, which is amazing. That doesn't happen in sports.
They both showed no signs of the 4-day rest being an issue. Obviously, Skeens, what was his total? 117, 118,
120. 120. I got it right here.
So he went 120
with 82 strikes out of
So he went 120 for the 3rd outing in a row, and this time on 4 days rest versus 6 days rest. And looked fantastic. And other than maybe the top end velocity being just a little down, instead of throwing 100, he's throwing 99. Even though his last 3 fastballs were 100 miles an hour, the guy didn't show anything. The thing I was surprised about the most, and they both were sensational. You see why they're both the 1st-round picks and all that. Well, Louder came out after pitch 88. I was really surprised by that. I thought for sure he would give him one more inning. And if he does, it backs up that whole bullpen, right? Who knows, if LSU hangs on enough before the breaking ball pops up after the reliever pitches into the 3rd inning, and then White hits the homer. It all makes a difference. I thought they pulled Louder a little too soon, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think that was a break for LSU when they pulled him out. And, Coach Bertman always said, you got to get the starter out when he's the ace, because the next guy coming in is not as good. So LSU did that, and Louder came out, and that was a break for LSU.
So now LSU's in a situation where everybody did their. I mean, Hurd. Let's before we move on to the offense, I want to say Hurd. His improvement and his maturation, Tommy, is another big part of the story. Like, this is a full team effort. This isn't just the stars. This isn't just Cruz, or it's just not White, or just not Skeens. Obviously, all the relievers that have come out of nowhere, the Ackenhausens of the world, but the Hurd has been a project. This was a guy who, quite frankly, Tommy, in the middle of the season, they almost just gave up on him. I mean, he was so far down the list of trusted relievers, but as injuries piled up and as guys didn't really do well, they had to stay with him. And I remember sitting in Coach Jay Johnson's office and him saying, if we're going to win, if we're going to get to Omaha, if we're going to win the championship, Thatcher Hurd, we have to count on Thatcher Hurd. They just didn't have, numbers didn't add up. They were going to have to count on him. And his improvement over the last month has been sensational.
Well, he did good at UCLA before an injury. And and they had a little surgery. He didn't throw much at all, if any, this fall. So he's just coming around into being ready to roll. And look, they're going to need him at some point against Florida. I'm not saying tomorrow night, but at some point he's going to have to get some outs against Florida. But look, the job's not done yet. As great as the game was last night, all the emotion, there's still plenty of work to do. But you're right. This will be one of those people going to remember where they were when Tommy White hit the home run.
So before we get to the Tommy White homer, let's talk about this for a minute. And that is, Dylan Cruz got a couple of hits. He starts off the game with the infield single. He had a couple bullets up the middle. Unfortunately, nothing to show for it. They had him played perfectly. He ends up getting the base hit later on, which leads to Tommy White being on base. And the statistic is just incredible. Tommy White is hitting over 600 this year when Dylan Cruz is on base. Like, let that sink in. He's hitting over 600, and he's got 100 RBIs now. Yeah. When Dylan Cruz is on base. Like, that is just crazy. Because think about how many times Dylan Cruz has been on base, right? Like, we're not talking about a small sample size.
A lot. He's never not been on base in any game this year.
Well, here's the other thing, too, is that Tommy White, he's hitting over 600 when Dylan Cruz is on base. He's hitting under 300 when he's not. So, trouble for the Tigers next year when there's no Dylan Cruz. I mean, somebody's got to become the new Dylan Cruz to protect Tommy White, or he's going to get walked. Or look, there's no way his numbers are going to be as good as they were this year next year, right? Like, I mean, it can't be. I mean, LSU's not going to have the players around him to protect him, I would think. But unbelievable. Before we get to the homer, let's kind of work through the game a little bit here. Dylan Cruz did his part. Back end still struggling. I mean, poor Thompson. My God. I mean, like, I feel for him. He's fighting it. He's changing bats. He can't sniff a breaking ball. It is what it is. This was a game where the big dogs showed up, right? Cruz got the 2 hits, could have had 3 or 4. Tommy White got the big homer. Skeens did his thing. Thatcher Hurd. These were big NIL transfer portal guys. When we're talking about White, Skeens, and Hurd, they were the premier 3 that came in the transfer portal. LSU doesn't have them. They're not in this position. So they lived up to their NIL dollars and all that and did their part. But the Trey Morgan play, and I've been saying this all along, why Trey Morgan is in left field ever blows my mind. But to leave the guy at first base, particularly in college, Tommy, leave the guy at first base, let him say that he's the best defensive first baseman in the country. And he had the Derek Jeter moment last night, the flip like Jeter did in the playoffs against Oakland years ago. It was that same kind of moment that will live in infamy. We will replay that thing a million times. He was under control. He came in under control, got the great hop, didn't try to do too much. It was like you practice it, and it was perfect.
Well, here's the thing. One of the beautiful things about the great game of baseball that you and I have in our blood, Alex Milazzo and Trey Morgan combined to go 0 for 7 at the plate. Okay? 0 for 7. Yet they combined to make the greatest defensive play in LSU baseball history. That, with that, and Trey Morgan said they practiced this bunt coverage stuff all the time, and then it worked. So, I mean, it's just a storybook. It's Hollywood script. I mean, it's unbelievable with that play. And what I liked about the play, okay, when the runner came in, he kind of got under the legs of the umpire. The umpire didn't signal out immediately. And if you watch Morgan, when you watch the replay, watch Morgan after he throws the ball and he's on the ground, he's looking at the ump to see what the call is, okay? And right. There's like a delay because the ump had to get out of the way of the runner, and then all of a sudden the ump pumps him out, and you can see Morgan start banging the ground, because he saw that the guy called him out. Then, of course, they challenged it, and it was close, Ronnie, when you looked at the replay.
Closer than you thought.
It was closer than you originally thought. But you just got to say, Trey Morgan, Alex Milazzo, and this is a lesson to all young kids. You might not help your team at the plate, but you can help your team defensively. And that is magnified with what Morgan and Milazzo did. They'll get talked about as much as White when it comes to the win over Wake Forest in 11 innings. I mean, that's the 2 things you start with. You start with the defensive play because it came in the top of the 8th, and then you talk about White, walking it off. And how about the pitcher that served up the gopher was the kid that said it's impossible to beat us, And what I didn't know till late last night, he and Tommy White played Little League Baseball together. They're friends. They've known each other. They've competed all their lives in this tournament and that tournament. And I mean, it's an amazing story. It'll be the highest rated college baseball TV game ever. And I was glad I was watching it.
They not only did they play Little League together, in 2019 they played in the Geico High School Baseball National Championships. They were in Houston that year. They were on Team Florida and actually won the national championship together. And speaking of that,
you see the picture of them hugging after the game?
Yeah.
That's class, that's respect, that's sportsmanship. Even though this is why you don't talk shit. You don't say it's impossible to beat us, because that'll come back and get you.
Right. Yeah. The next week, by the way, the Geico High School National Championships start at Dallas Baptist University Tuesday through Friday, and you can watch it on ESPN on the app. They'll have 4 games Tuesday, 4 games Wednesday, semifinals Thursday, and finals Friday. Myself, Lynn Rollins, Todd Walker, all will be involved on the broadcast. But anyway, yeah, I don't want to exaggerate, so I'm going to try to give you, in my mind, a conservative estimate number. There were at least 9 major leaguers that played in that game last night. At least 9, and I'm gonna say Skeens, White, and Cruz, of course, for LSU, for sure, a lot big leaguers. And then as far as other people that and from Wake Forest, obviously Louder, that's 4, but of those arms that they rolled out of the bullpen, Tommy, they all were major league arms. But let's just say a couple of them get hurt, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to go 2 will play in the big leagues. That's up to 6. And now we haven't even talked about position players for either team outside of Cruz and White. I mean, there's going to be, I'm telling you, when all's said and done, when you look at the rosters, and let's put these rosters on the side, out of the 80 players that are on these 40-man rosters, there's going to be at least 9 big leaguers, if not more.
Yeah, well, you kind of go back to when LSU football beat Bama 6-3 up in Alabama, and now they
9-6.
They were
9-6 in 2011. Yeah,
and we know that like 42 guys that were in that game played a snap in the NFL. Okay, right. Or when LSU played Florida State, Southern Cal football, 679, same thing. A lot of that, 20-something guys played in the NFL, not had a tryout. This game last night was just top to bottom. And look, Tom Walter's a great coach. He's done wonders with that program, and we hadn't said it yet, but Jay Johnson's an elite coach. Keep in mind, 2 years ago, he had his Arizona team in the finals at the College World Series in 21. Then he comes to LSU, and 2 years later, he's got the team in the finals again. This guy's a coach.
Yeah. It took Arizona to the World Series twice. They never made it to the championship, but
yeah, they did. They lost. They did in 21. They lost. No. In 21 they went like 0-2, I think, or something like that. They didn't lose to Ole Miss.
Yeah, no.
So 16 or 17 they won.
So Mississippi State won it in 21, and Ole Miss in 22, and in 21 I think Arizona went 0-2. They lost an extra inning game in that first one, and then that shut them down. They lost the second one, and then LSU went and signed them. But still, look, that's why. Like, Jay Johnson knows it. He's taken every opportunity to talk to those recruits when he's on TV, saying, "Hey, if you're in the portal, this is where you want to come." And look at that. If they don't have White, if they don't have Skeens, if they don't have Hurd, just those 3, LSU's not where they are. And they made a commitment financially to go get the players. They had some boosters that said, "We want to win a national championship before I die," and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And LSU's got themselves in the championship, and it's going to come down to 2 out of 3. Look, Florida has the advantage. They're rested. Their pitching is lined up perfectly. They are the favorite. But I never thought LSU would win 2 games in a row without Skeens against Wake Forest. I didn't think they'd win on Wednesday night. I thought, obviously, last night they were a favorite with Skeens on the mound. I did not think they would win Wednesday night when you're talking about them pitching, number 6 through 9, 10 in their staff. Didn't think it would happen against Wake Forest, and they proved me wrong. And they all pitched the game of their life, and they shut out Wake Forest. That was incredible. They're going to have to continue to have that Cinderella storybook deal. Remember in 17 when they got to the finals against Florida, they had to beat Oregon State twice, and they did. This is that kind of thing with what they did against Wake Forest. Now they're set up for Floyd to go on Saturday. Will Skeens throw again on Monday? And if so, to what degree? We'll have to cross that bridge if LSU gets there. They've got to win one of the next two to have a conversation about Skeens on Monday. That is going to be a very tall task.
I agree completely. And, Sunday you'll see Ackenhausen and, Riley Cooper didn't throw last night. So, I mean, Jay Johnson's going to continue to find a way to get 27 outs. He talked about that before he ever coached the game at LSU. We were all at a function when he said that my job is to figure out the best way to get 27 outs. And he's got to do that now. Saturday night, 6 o'clock. Sunday game is 2 o'clock, for those of you wondering. And then, if necessary, on Monday is 6 o'clock. All three games on the main platform of ESPN.
Speaking of baseball, Baton Rouge, Rougarou, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, all 7 o'clock starts. And hey, tonight, fireworks during the seventh inning stretch of Jerry Lane Enterprises fireworks show. Fantastic fireworks show by the people that put on all the fireworks shows up in Natchitoches for Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and the Christmas Festival and everything like that. So you want to come out tonight. We're going to have the USSSA State All-Star Tournament opening ceremonies at 6:30, a parade of teams. And then at 7:05 will be the first pitch. Giant crowd expected tonight, so hope to see you there. And can't wait for the fireworks during the seventh inning stretch. And then we'll also play Saturday and Sunday night as well, 7 o'clock. Saturday, we're having Cheeseburger and Paradise Night, $3 Christmas specialty meat, giant cheeseburgers. We're going to have the Hawaiian shirts and the island music playing. We'll have the LSU game on a big giant screen out there at the ballpark as well. That game will have started an hour earlier. So come on out, let the sun come down a little bit, have a great time. And then Sunday, salute the service. We'll have all former and current first responders. You and a guest get in free with your ID. And we're going to be honoring America during that game. So 3-game series. Hope to see everybody out there. Come see what all the hype's about with the Baton Rouge Rougarou, as the Rougarou needs your support to get things turned around. We dropped 3 in a row. We're 10-8 right now on the season. So we lost the heartbreaker last night in Lafayette. We were ahead of the King Cutters and blew the lead. So we need to get back on the winning track. We need your support. Come on out tonight for fireworks night. What else is happening in the world of sports, Tom? Is there anything outside of LSU the college?
Ronnie, the sanctions came down on LSU basketball and football yesterday. Of course, everybody forgot about that. The NBA draft was last night. Everybody forgot about that. I mean, Ronnie, I'm a big fan of the Dan Patrick Show. I've been watching it almost every day for 4 years. They opened with the LSU win over Wake Forest last night.
Wow, that's impressive.
And I made sure I was watching to see if they were even going to mention it, okay? Because in certain parts of the country, people don't care about college baseball. Okay, that's a given. We do, but they opened with the Trey Morgan play and the Tommy White home run, and I mean,
what did they say from an outsider's perspective that has no loyalty to, or rooting interest? What did they say about it?
They just talked about the athleticism of Trey Morgan, how many people could make that play. And then Dan Patrick said it'll be the highest rated, TV game in college baseball history. And of course, those rates will come out later today. But no, they talked about it, and they talked about it for more than 30 seconds. I mean, they showed the highlight clip of the Morgan play. They showed White. They showed the team celebrating after. They chimed in. That's what they opened the Dan Patrick Show with this morning. I was impressed.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That just gives you an idea of how much how big a star Skeens and Cruz are, and you throw in the fact that they're going against Louder, who's a first-round pick, and his hair and the whole everybody's known about him for a couple of years. It was a matchup of Titans that often doesn't live up to the billing, and this one surpassed it. All right, we're going to get way into the NBA draft. We're going to get way into the golf that's going on. We're going to get way into the LSU schedule and everything with the Saints and all that. At times tomorrow morning on Sports Shorts Radio from 10 to noon, we'll be at Barstool Sportsbook. We'll talk tons of college baseball. We'll talk to Doug Thompson. We'll talk to Buzzy Heidel. All of them will join us on the show. We'll get their take as well. Let's get out of here, Tommy. Tell us about Tremonti's.
Yeah, Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, lunch special today, fried catfish with crawfish etouffee. Look, if you're having a party to watch LSU Florida tomorrow night, come get your steaks, your wine, your whiskey, your sausage, your seafood, whatever you're going to need. They can get it for you here at Tremonti, so you can have that big party tomorrow night to watch the LSU game. They got a catering service right on Jefferson Highway down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Come on, stop by Tremonti's Meat and Seafood.
Greatest game I've ever. Well, let me back up. Let's the greatest game ever is the University of Miami LSU game with Warren Morris in the finals. I mean, if we all remember the home run, but it was the back and forth, the changing of the leads and everything. And it was 9-8. So that's the greatest game I've ever watched from a thrilling standpoint, the changing of the leads, all that. Last night was probably the best well-played game I've ever seen. You talk about the defensive plays that Wake Forest made to save runs and base runners. You talk about the Trey Morgan play, the top line pitching all the way throughout from starters to relievers. And then the stars show up. Cruz showed up. White showed up. It was probably the best well-played college baseball game I've ever seen.
Yeah, because, by the way, Ronnie, no errors in the game by either team. That first baseman from Wake Forest climbed the ladder at that time to get that ball. Here's the thing, Ronnie. I know most people like to watch an 8-6 game, okay, and see wildness. Being a former pitcher, I've always loved pitching duels. And that was the ultimate pitching duel with Lauder and Skeens. And, I mean, I was just on every pitch. I'm just like, wow, and man, it was a fun thing to watch, no doubt. And my phone was blowing up with other players and former guys that played for Tulane would text me. It's the greatest game they ever saw.
Travinsky, by the way, still banged up. He took a shot to the ribs during the Super Regional. His turning and twisting and all that's not quite where they want it to be. You saw him trying to get loose, take some swings underneath the cage last night in case he could maybe loosen it up to pinch hit. But that's what's going on with Travinsky. Now, will he be healthy enough to play in the finals with an extra day's rest and all that? Maybe. But that's what's going on with him. I don't know what's going on with Jones. He's in uniform. He's there. He's on the roster. Guy in that at bat since I did. I don't know what's going on. Like, I know he struggled with the breaking ball and became pretty predictable. But, I mean, Pearson's hitting 220. Like I just don't understand. We'll have to E60, E30 this thing and try to figure out what's going on with Jones and why he's in the doghouse or something. Like, I get it, man. He's predictable, but the guy's got like the third most homers on the team or something. Like, I mean, like he can't get an at bat. Like, it's bizarre to me. But anyway, so we'll see if any of that changes in the regionals and championship finals. Can't wait till Saturday night.
All right, we want to see you at Pete Goldsby Field tonight. Come on out to the Barstool Sportsbook tomorrow. Come, you can sit around. You can hear the show when you're in the Barstool Sportsbook.
Have some good lunch.
Yeah, great lunch, great food, great service, all that good stuff. Play a little blackjack if you want. Go make a bet if you want. So come on out tomorrow morning. I want to see a bunch of people come out because we're going to be talking LSU versus Florida. We'll have the odds by then. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun weekend, Ronnie. We got baseball galore. I love it.
All right, we'll see you at Pete Goldsby tonight, 7:05, and fireworks during the 7th inning stretch. Have a great one, everybody. Please like and share this video. Thank you.